He was only 5 weeks old, screaming at me like I had stolen something from him. I scooped him up, one hand cradling his tiny head, the other trembling so bad I thought I might drop him. My shirt clung to me, soaked through. It was not sweat. Could have been formula, could have been spit up, maybe even my own tears. Hard to tell the difference when everything blurred together. Ashley was just 20 years old, and we had not even been home from the hospital for a full month. I could see her slipping away. What started as the baby blues had hardened into silence, hours locked away in the bathroom, then pills I never saw a doctor hand her. She started borrowing money from the kind of people who never asked where you were going to get it back. One morning, she grabbed her purse, walked out before the sun came up, and left the front door hanging open like even the house could not believe she was gone. Before we continue, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest stories. My name is Ethan. I am 30 years old. I was living in a beat-up townhouse just off Highway 169 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The carpet was older than I was. The fridge wheezed every time you closed it. Still, it was ours. At least it had been. The first call I made was to my parents. The phone rang once before Mom picked up. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No," I told her. "Ashley's gone." There was a pause. Then the blade slipped in. "We warned you," she said. I said nothing. Dad got on the line and added, "You chose her, Ethan. Do not pull us into this." That was it. No offer to help. No gas money. No extra sheets for the crib. Just the same old disappointment layered with the smug tone I had grown up choking on. Caleb kept pressing his mouth against my chest, rooting around like he believed milk was going to come if he just cried loud enough. I clutched him tighter and sat on the couch, heart pounding so hard my vision narrowed into a tunnel. That was when the phone rang again. Not my parents this time. It was my landlord. "You are by yourself now?" he asked, not even pretending to care. "Rent is due next Friday. If you cannot cover it, I will repost the unit." "I have it," I lied, then hung up, stumbled into the kitchen, and threw up in the sink. Next door, Walter must have heard me gagging, or maybe just heard Caleb wailing through the thin walls. He knocked once, then walked right in like the place belonged to him. "You are burning daylight," he said, already prying open a can of formula with a pocket knife he wiped on his jeans. "Ration the powder. Keep track of his feedings. Sleep when he sleeps. No speeches. Just move." Walter looked like he had been carved out of oak. Gray hair, skin bronzed by years of work, hands scarred from engines and battles. He had been a Marine, now a machinist. Lived alone. Spoke little. Always gave me a nod in the mornings, rarely more than that. He slid a dented green thermos across the counter. It looked like it had been through a few wars itself. "Hot water stays hot," he said. "You will need it when you are stuck on a bus or trapped in a waiting room. This carried me through Iraq. It will get you through 4 o'clock in the morning." We sat at my wobbly kitchen table with a piece of junk mail and scratched out a plan. Feeding times. Diaper runs. County office for vouchers. Workplaces that hired on night shifts. He circled 3 names and underlined the words, "Show up clean." By day 3, I had Caleb strapped into the stroller, bumping along on the city bus. We hit a pothole, and I spilled half a bottle of formula right down my lap. The bus went dead quiet. Some kid in a hoodie snickered, but I just sat there, dripping milk, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Walter's words came back to me. "Act first. Explain later." I hit 5 job sites in a row with Caleb strapped to my chest. I did not beg. I did not whine. I just asked if they had hours a single father could work. By midnight, I was back at the townhouse, staring at the note she left behind. She had chosen her exit. I chose to take the wheel. I tucked the thermos under Caleb's crib and set 2 alarms, 2:15 and 5:40. I did not cry. I did not fall apart. I just kept moving. A week later, I was back on the same bus line, Caleb asleep in the stroller with his mouth hanging open, his curls damp from the heat. I rolled nickels and dimes between my fingers, counting out the transfers like it was an exam I could not afford to fail. Across from me sat a woman in a dark gray jacket, the sleeves marked with little grease stains. Her face told me she had seen every kind of mistake twice over and did not waste time being shocked. She reached into her bag and handed me a pack of wipes and a business card without a single word. My hand took them before my brain caught up. The card read, "Elena Vasquez, Keymaster Services." "You steady when things get messy?" she asked. nodding at Caleb, who was snoring like a busted fan. I shrugged. I am short on choices. She gave me a half smile that never touched her eyes. We all are. I need someone who shows up, keeps his head, and does not mind doors at 1 o'clock in the morning. Training pay at the start. Schedule's flexible, Elena said, tilting her head. Interested? Locksmith work isn't magic tricks. It is focus, patience, and the ability to keep steady hands even when somebody is screaming about a child locked in a room or a dog tearing into drywall behind a closed door. That very night, she let me tag along. I left Caleb with Walter, who just said, "Be here at 6:30 sharp, not 6:31, before shutting his door like the matter was settled. Elena moved with quiet precision. No wasted words, no wasted motion. I watched her change a deadbolt on a rental in less than 8 minutes, then swap out a mailbox lock at a small church as if she were fixing a toaster. By the fourth stop, she pointed at the kit and told me, "Your turn." I did not stand there thinking it to death. I just copied her steps and the mailbox lock gave way easy. That same week, my parents called twice. The first time, Mom said, "You made your bed." The second time, Dad suggested I swallow my pride and move back home. But there were strings attached, pages of rules, no television after 9, no junk food, no daycare. Mom would raise Caleb her way. I hung up and blocked Dad's number for a while. Then something decent broke through the storm. The county sent notice. We qualified for a daycare voucher worth $385. It might not have sounded like much, but it bought us 3 afternoons a week at a center that did not reek of bleach or cigarette smoke. Caleb had clean snacks, soft blocks, and teachers who called him buddy without forcing the kindness. I worked nights, graveyard hours, anything Alina tossed my way. Sometimes I dozed in the van with the windows cracked, phone in my hand. Mornings belonged to Walter. He treated our routine like a drill sergeant running basic training. Up early, feed, burp, rinse the bottles, stretch for 5 minutes, stroller packed, coffee poured. "You keep a rhythm," he said, patting that old thermos like it was holy. "Bad days will not bowl you over so easy." By Saturday, I had turned one of our leftover moving boxes into Caleb's toy kitchen. I rigged a shelf with a bungee cord, borrowed one of Walter's beat-up thermoses as a pretend coffee pot, and tossed in a ladle and pan from the dollar store. Caleb got serious with it, stirring invisible soup, handing me cups of pretend coffee, telling me it was extra spicy. I pretended to gag and said it was too strong. He laughed so hard he dropped the ladle. For a minute, it felt like we had just won the Super Bowl. Elena caught the small things. One night, while she was organizing tools in the back of the van, she told me, "Your timesheets are neat. Your van's cleaner. You do not cancel. You do not complain. You ask 2 questions and then fix it. Want more hours?" "Only if I can stack them around the kid," I said, rubbing my neck. She grinned, handed me a small power drill with my name scrawled on the side in marker. "Do not lose this, Ethan. We can build a ladder out of that." She bumped me up to on-call evenings 3 nights a week and Saturday mornings. It was not smooth, but it was forward. Back at the townhouse, the Homeowners Association's new manager, Brad Keller, started sniffing around like a bloodhound. First, he flagged Walter's garage door paint for fading unevenly. Then it was the flag bracket. Then the lawn edging. He claimed it was 2 inches off. Walter called it tin badge nonsense. I started keeping every notice in a folder. Caleb took to preschool better than I dared hope. He came home showing me how to wash his hands the right way. One day on the bus, he pointed at a pigeon and shouted, "That's not a chicken," loud enough to make the driver snort. Elena told me once, "You have calm hands. That's rare." Walter said, "Do not speak what you can just do." Caleb said, "Daddy, soup hot," and he handed me a spoon filled with nothing at all. That was our life, week after week. No applause, no miracles, just grind. I slept whenever I could and kept moving when I could not. Nights belonged to lockouts and bottle scrubbing. Mornings meant toddler chaos and burnt toast. But the thermos stayed full and Caleb stayed fed. I did not have the luxury to dream. Functioning was the goal. That was enough, for the time being. Lockouts at midnight will teach you to worship silence. When everything goes smooth, the only sound is the soft click of pin setting, the faint rattle of a latch, and then you are gone. When it goes bad, a baby starts crying, dogs bark, neighbors pull curtains like they are extras in a crime show. I learned to stand where the porch cameras could see me and always leave the receipt out in plain view. I kept my voice calm, my posture easy. Treat people and doors the same way. They can slam on you when you least expect it. One Tuesday, I was flat on my back under a storefront deadbolt, my hands cramping from the awkward angle when my phone buzzed on the sidewalk. I slapped it to speaker without even glancing. "This is Miss Angela from Caleb's Daycare," the voice said. "He's fine. Just a heads up, he's low on pull-ups. Could you bring some tomorrow?" I nodded like she could see me. "Yes, absolutely. I will drop them off early." Then I hung up, flexed my fingers, and went back to coaxing the deadbolt loose. Do not tell me men cannot multitask. We just do not build shrines to it. By then, Elena had me running on tighter rotations. Elena had a way of holding me to a standard I did not even know I could meet. In the mornings, she would glance at Caleb, double-check I had him squared away, then quiz me over coffee about key machine errors, as if it was second nature. After that, she still expected me to handle jobs like I had been in the trade a decade. "Key machines don't care about your excuses," she told me once, sliding a clipboard into my hands. "Neither do customers. Do your checklist, breathe, then talk." I wrote that down and lived by it. That little order worked better than any motivational speech I had ever heard. Around the same time, my mom sent me a text. It ran on, a whole paragraph that was really guilt dressed up as concern. She said it hurt her feelings that I had posted Caleb's first haircut without mentioning the grandparents who tried to warn you. I started typing "not helpful," then stopped, deleted it. Instead, I took Caleb to the park and showed him how to kick a ball without falling flat on his face. Walter was there, parked on a bench with his sunglasses on, arms folded like an old guard dog. When Caleb wandered toward the sandbox, I sat beside him. Without turning his head, still watching my boy, he muttered, "You're doing fine. Ignore the noise. Keep going." One night burned into me. I slept through the 2 o'clock alarm and bolted awake at 3:40. Heart pounding, I ran to Caleb's crib. He was awake, humming some tune only he knew, pacifier on the floor, diaper soaked through. Shame hit me like a freight train. My chest burned with it. But he looked up at me, grinned like I had just brought him cake, and said, "Hi, Daddy." It shattered me, but in a way that glued me back together different. Then Brad, the Homeowners Association tyrant himself, slapped a violation notice on Walter's door for a flower planter, calling it an unauthorized obstruction. Walter snorted, tucked the paper under a fridge magnet, and said, "One more of these, and I'm dragging a folding chair to the board meeting." I did not say much, just added the slip to my folder, dated, photographed, and labeled. I was not about to let this nonsense get swept under the rug. That Friday, Elena tossed me a company polo before our first stop. Not brand new, but clean, blue, and stitched with the Keymaster logo. "Customers relax when they see you look like you know where the screws go," she said. The shirt fit strange across the shoulders, but it felt heavier than cotton, like a signpost on the road. I did not need to say it out loud. She knew. Later that week, I got sent to a senior apartment complex. A woman named Mrs. Sullivan wanted her peephole lowered so she could see out without standing on tiptoe. I did it quick, straight, and clean. When I tested it, she lit up. "My late Frank never had the patience," she said, then hugged me tight, smelling like lavender and paper that had sat in drawers for years. "You're all set," I told her. Back in the van, I let myself smile. 10 seconds, maybe 12. That night at home, I dragged Caleb's cardboard kitchen next to the real one. While I boiled pasta, he stirred pretend stew. We ate off the same tray. "We're a team," I told him. "I know," he answered without hesitation. Then came the voicemail from my father. I almost skipped it. "We are not your enemy," he said, using that voice that always tried to sound wise but landed more like judgment. "But you made this mess." I hovered over delete, then changed my mind. I saved it, not to replay, not to stew on, but as a reminder of the distance between us. That Sunday, Caleb and I hit the grocery store. He insisted on steering the cart. In the aisles, we passed a couple I half recognized from the complex. Two parents, mid-30s, their kids trailing. The woman gave a polite nod. The man asked, "Still doing that single dad thing?" I looked him in the eye. "Still doing that mouthy stranger thing?" He blinked like I had thrown him a math problem. I pushed the cart forward, let Caleb pick out a yogurt, and did not look back. That evening, Caleb drifted off on the floor in front of the fan. I sat with Walter, told him about the voicemail and the guy at the store. "You'll hit a point," Walter said, sipping black coffee from that dented green thermos, "where you stop explaining yourself to people who do not lift a finger for you. That's the line. You will know when you have drawn it." I nodded, but the truth was I already had. I drew that line the moment I told my mother nothing was missing from that haircut photo. No grandparents, no guilt, no apologies carved into shame. Just me, my boy, and the scissors. And I was keeping that line. Caleb was 3 by then, built like a spark plug, sturdy, restless, full of questions that came one at a time like pebbles in a boot. Small at first, but eventually all you could feel. We were sitting under the shade tree by Walter's driveway. Toy trucks scattered in the dirt like a wreck. Caleb lined them up, narrating some story about a tow truck marrying a milk truck. Then he stopped, looked up, and asked in a plain voice like he was reading a label, "Why does everybody have a mom?" I froze with my coffee halfway to my lips, but he was not done. "Where's mine?" he asked. No edge, no fear, just curiosity, like he wanted to know why some kids had superheroes on their lunchboxes and others had glitter. I did not stall. Walter's rule. I kept it simple with Caleb. No speeches, no sugarcoating. "You do have a mom," I told him, setting my cup down. "She had a rough time. She is not safe right now. That is not your fault." He squinted up at the sky like he was puzzling something out, then gave a little nod and went back to piling dirt on a toy dump truck. "Okay, can I have 2 oranges?" I cleared my throat. "Yeah, buddy. You can have 2. We will grab them inside." At the sink, rinsing the fruit, my hands shook. I had to turn my face to the wall for a second just to steady myself. Walter stood near the stove, flipping the lid of the old thermos in one hand, watching me with that stillness he had, where you could not tell if it meant everything or nothing. He waited until my shoulders dropped before he spoke. "It ain't about the answers," he said, Ted, pouring hot water over a cheap tea bag. "It's about not flinching when he asks. That's what sticks." Later that night, after Caleb was asleep, I laid out his school clothes, little cargo pants and a red t-shirt with a faded dinosaur print. I wrote on a sticky note in big block letters, "Dad picks up at 3:15. Taped it inside his backpack. Redundant maybe, but I breathed easier after. 2 days later, Daycare sent home a flyer about a family wall project. Pictures, drawings, anything that showed home. Caleb handed it to me like it was a trophy. I pulled up that photo from the arcade, the one where I had a helmet squashed over my ears, and Caleb was laughing so hard he leaned sideways. Printed it at the library, trimmed it, slid it into a folder, and dropped it off with his things. The teacher looked at it, smiled wide. "Perfect," she said, giving me a thumbs up like I needed permission to believe I was enough. That afternoon, my mom sent me a link to a church video titled "Restoring Order to Broken Homes." I did not click it. I blocked her number for 60 days and told Walter over breakfast toast. He just folded his newspaper and said, "Good. You stretched before the run." Caleb kept rolling forward like kids do. His favorite shirt was the gray one Elena gave him with the red Keymaster logo on the sleeve. He called it his worker shirt. Some nights he sat by the door waiting for me, asking, "Are we having real dinner or fast dinner?" Elena found out, not because I said a word, but because she reads things in my face before I even know they're there. We were driving back from a job, her hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. "You handled it?" she asked. "I think so," I said. I had not lied. I had not panicked. She nodded, flicked on the blinker. "You think about next year, kindergarten?" "I'm thinking about Mother's Day first," I said, "and all those bring a special lady crafts they spring on kids like it is nothing." She tapped the steering wheel. "Then we make our own days. Company picnic, lock vans, toddlers, old Marines, plenty of family right there." That night, Caleb dragged his cardboard kitchen under the dining table and declared it a cafe. The green thermos sat in the center like a fancy centerpiece. He poured imaginary tea into 2 plastic cups and handed one to Walter. "This one's spicy," he said, dead serious. Walter sniffed it, nodded. "Smells dangerous, chef." They toasted, Caleb raising his chin like it was 5 stars. Later, after Caleb was asleep, I found one of his drawings in my work bag. Stick figures holding hands, a box with wheels labeled "Our Lock Van." No mom in the picture, just me, him, and Walter's hat perched on a third blob with boots. No sadness in it, just truth. I sat on the porch with the thermos, yard lights flickering on, and for the first time in a long while, I was not waiting for the other shoe to drop. The next morning, I dropped Caleb off early and told the teacher he might start asking harder questions. She nodded. We don't give them every answer, she said. We give them space to carry the ones they do have. That landed harder than I expected. I had not flinched when Caleb asked about his mom. That mattered. I had not lied. That mattered even more. And when he grinned and asked, "Can I have 3 oranges next time?" I said, "Sure thing." No hesitation. Spring did not drift in gently that year. It slammed the door open. Rain hammered the gutters sideways. Every lock in town swelled like it had a grudge. Deadbolts stuck, handles stripped, tenants screamed, landlords panicked. We were drowning in calls. Elena started routing half of them straight to me. "You don't get rattled," she said. "That matters." She did not have to repeat it. I was already moving. She signed me up for state certification and handed me a study binder thick enough to stop traffic. "Don't overthink the exam," she told me, sliding over another folder labeled "Shortcuts Ethan Proofed." "You plan too much sometimes, but in this case, that's a strength. Use it." I studied at night on the couch, Caleb lining toy cars across my legs like I was his racetrack. I read sections out loud until he started repeating the words camlock and strike plate like they were superheroes. I passed with 87%. Not a perfect score, not something you hang ribbons for, but good enough. Elena slapped the results against my chest and said, "There's your green light." Then she put me on a few commercial jobs and told me to handle customer quotes whenever she was tied up. "You're the steady one," she said. "Do not lean on charm. Lead with proof." That Sunday, I was at the door, scrubbing Caleb's rain boots, when a knock landed like a gavel. My parents. No warning. They stood there with a box of groceries and faces so tight you could hear the hum of tension before they even spoke. "We thought we'd help," Mom said, stepping in without an invite. She dropped the groceries on the counter, then launched into it like a confession. "Caleb needs older women around, Ethan. You can't be both." I did not let it sink in. "Thanks for the peaches," I said, holding the door wide like it was a lifeboat. "We're fine." Dad shuffled his feet. "You're proud, that's the problem." "No, sir," I said, calm but squared. "I'm busy." 2 steps behind me, Walter appeared, arms folded, face carved from stone, saying nothing. That was enough. My parents left, mouths tight, no promise to return. Later that week, Elena surprised Caleb with a small red toolbox made of plastic snapped-together pieces, his name painted on the side in white. "Do not mix it with Dad's," she told him. Caleb held it like it was treasure. "Can I keep it forever?" "As long as you don't lose the screwdriver," she said. We brought it to the rec center that Saturday for the neighborhood Fix-It Fair. Local teenagers lined up to learn how not to strip screws or destroy their doors with YouTube advice. Elena floated around answering questions, and I gave the demos. She watched me, not like she was grading, but like she was storing it in her head. Afterward, we packed up the van. She leaned against the door. "How's your week?" I told her straight. One rough night, one leaking ceiling, one Caleb meltdown about socks being too spicy. She did not try to patch it, just nodded. "Mine wasn't better," she said. I asked about her schedule. She answered plain, no deflection, just told me what she was balancing. Before she left, she tapped the thermos in my cup holder. "Bring that on the big jobs. It's your mascot now." Meanwhile, Brad Keller decided to crank the Homeowners Association battle up another notch. Walter replaced his porch bulb so the stairs would actually light up, and Brad slapped him with a violation for unauthorized exterior lighting. "Perfect," I said when Walter handed me the slip. "Keep them all." I scanned every notice, time-stamped, and filed them into a folder labeled Keller. I was not just watching anymore, I was tracking. A few days later, Caleb came home with a flyer for Special Grown-Up Day. He gave it to me like it was an invitation to space. "You're my special grown-up," he said, pointing at the calendar. "Every day," I told him. I did not cry, but I took a picture of the flyer and sent it to Walter with a thumbs up. That night, Elena came by the shop and handed me a set of keys. Shop keys. Use the tools off hours if you need them. You earned it. The word earned hit hard. This was no longer just a job. It had roots. She lingered a second longer than usual. I didn't fill the silence. That Saturday, Caleb fixed a drawer in the kitchen with a plastic wrench and 3 foam nails. I told him it looked perfect. He said, Elena says always double check the screws. She was in his vocabulary now, part of his structure. That night, after a late call, we loaded the van in the rain. The lot was soaked. She handed me a rag for the seat. "You're different than when I met you," she said. "Cleaner van," I joked, dodging. "No," she said. "That too, but you walk different now, like you know where the ground is." I didn't answer right away. Rain dripped off the doorframe. For the first time, it wasn't boss and worker. It wasn't crossing a line. It was seeing one together. "I'm trying to hold steady," I said. "You're doing more than that," she said, handing me a thermos refill like it was a ritual. Then she walked to her truck, didn't look back. She didn't have to. Something had shifted. Not loud, not fast, but real. The morning it came clear, I was elbow deep in a stuck cylinder at a dentist's office that smelled like bubblegum and bleach. Gloves on, toolkit open, Caleb's drawing of a superhero with a lock folded in my back pocket. My phone buzzed. The notification hit like glass shattering in a quiet room. A Facebook message. "Ashley, 3 years without a word." The message was short, her name in blue. "I'm clean now. I want to see my son." No punctuation, no detail, no warning. I stared at it until the guy at the front desk asked if I needed a different drill head. I muttered something, finished the job, then told Elena I needed 5 minutes. Elena saw the look on my face and just gave a short nod. She did not ask right then. That night, I carried the message to Walter first. He read it once, no blink, no frown, then lifted his mug and said, "Supervised, or not at all." Later, I handed the phone to Elena. She blew out a breath through her nose, sharp and quick. "Put it on paper," she said. "Every word. Don't leave it floating in your head. No calls, no emotion. Keep it plain." I typed an email on the lock shop Wi-Fi, 1 hour, family center, staff present, 2 weeks out. That was the offer. Ashley replied quick, just said okay. Then another message, longer. She asked if I could cover some old debt, said her phone would be cut if I wanted contact. That told me all I needed. I answered, "No money. See you at the center." 2 weeks dragged like walking a wire with a brick on my chest. I didn't tell Caleb until the morning. Kept it simple. "There's someone you'll meet today. She's part of your story. I'll be with you." He just nodded, like I'd said grocery store. The place was bright, puzzle piece rugs, bins of toys, one loud clock. Caleb swung our hands as if it was an errand. A staffer named Lisa sat with a clipboard and that calm smile of someone who's seen it all. She explained the rules and pointed at the art table if we needed a neutral spot. Ashley showed up 5 minutes late. Clean hoodie, beat-up sneakers, eyes worn thin. She hugged herself instead of us. "Hey," she said, voice small. Caleb gripped my hand. Lisa repeated the rules. Ashley nodded, then asked for a minute alone. I didn't blink. "No, this way, or not at all." She pressed her lips tight, but stayed. 15 minutes in, her small talk unraveled. She talked about a clinic, then her phone. "I need $250 to keep in touch," she said, trying to sound light. I shook my head. "All contact goes through the center." She sighed, as if I was making it hard. Then she stepped forward, arms halfway open. Caleb stepped back and grabbed my leg. Lisa didn't move, just slid crayons onto the table and asked if Ashley wanted to draw. That broke the tension. They spent the rest of the hour coloring. Caleb barely spoke. He scribbled a truck. "That's our van," he said. She smiled, but it faded quick. When time was up, Lisa wrapped it like a meeting. Caleb waved wide. Ashley cried and said, "I'll email you." She never did. I kept the visitor badge with my name and marker. That slid it in the drawer with Caleb's first school drawing and the daycare voucher. Not a trophy, just proof I did it right. Driving home, Caleb slept with his cheek on the glass, hand curled in a fist. My grip stayed tight on the wheel. I wasn't mad at her. I was mad at the hole she'd left. Walter was waiting on the porch, thermos in hand. He poured 2 cups before I stepped up. "You kept him safe," he said, passing me one. "That's the job." I just nodded. The silence said enough. That night I slept like a man who'd braced for a punch that never came. Not peace, just drained quiet. In the morning, Caleb tugged my sleeve while I poured cereal. "Can we have pancakes shaped like trucks?" "They'll look like pancakes," I said. "That's okay," he grinned. "You're the best chef I made." One came out like a jellyfish, the other like a boot. He dipped them in syrup and called them monster truck tires. No applause, no soundtrack. Just a kitchen, a kid, and a line I didn't cross. Then came the 10th notice, this time with an invoice. $185 stamped administrative fee for repeat nonconformance. Polished letterhead, legal phrasing, but the meaning was clear. Pay up or fold. Brad had crossed from petty to predatory. Walter sat on his porch, the envelope crumpled in his fist, jaw tight enough to crack teeth, thermos untouched. "He wants me to break," Walter said, not looking up. "Wear me down until I give up the house or drop dead on the lawn." I looked him in the eye. "Then let's make it public." We called Elena. She showed up with a scanner, a file box, and a plan sharp enough to cut glass. "Board meets Tuesday," she said, flipping through printouts like a lawyer out of patience. "Bring copies, ask for the appeal process in writing, and don't raise your voice first." We laid it all out. Photos of the porch light, which was a standard bulb in a weatherproof fixture. The flag bracket mounted clean. The lawn edging that looked like a magazine spread. I printed the bylaws and highlighted every section Brad skipped. Caleb's job was to hold the folder. I told him it was mission critical, and he carried it like it was nuclear launch codes. Tuesday came. I wore the clean Keymaster polo. Caleb had jeans without paint. Walter shaved. He never said why. The board met in a strip mall conference room that smelled like old carpet. Brad gave a smug tap of the gavel and said the meeting was closed to public comment. I stood anyway. "We're here for the formal appeal procedure," I said, "and for a review of the citations against Mr. Walter Briggs." Brad raised the gavel, but I was already posting photos of the 9 violations to the community Facebook page with the words "pattern of harassment." Neighbors started sliding into the room, some with their own notices. Alina stepped forward, calm. "We're not here to fight. We're here to follow the rules you wrote." She laid down each citation, said "baseless" 3 times, and matched every one to the bylaws. Brad tried to argue about the porch light. Walter leaned in, hands flat on the table. "Gentlemen, I've bled on hotter sand than your parking lot. Treat me fair or put it in writing." The room froze. Someone clapped. Others followed. The board flinched, rescinded 5 citations on the spot, promised to review the rest. Brad looked like he swallowed a lemon sideways. We didn't cheer walking out, just steady steps. Caleb whispered to Alina, "Did we win?" She bent down. "Not done yet, but you did your job perfect." The next morning, I dropped Caleb at daycare, but my gut stayed tight. Something wasn't finished. I made a few calls, talked with Miss Dorothy across from Walter, who kept everything in manila folders. Brad had been double billing 3 widows, phony fees stapled to fake reviews he mailed himself. Elena called a contact at a legal aid clinic. We helped the women file disputes, attached receipts, and bylaws. Then we posted it online, quiet and clean. 2 weeks later, Brad resigned. No apology, no fuss. Just left a final unsigned notice in Walter's mailbox. At the mailboxes, he waved at me like his arm weighed 50 pounds. I nodded once, nothing more. That weekend, Walter framed all 9 citations and hung them over his workbench. "That's a trophy," he said. "Earned everyone by breathing and not bending." I thought of my father's voicemail, "You made this mess." Then I looked at Walter's frame. This was the kind of trophy I wanted. Elena came by that night with dinner in a paper bag, hair pulled back, looking younger but stronger. She watched Caleb stack socket wrenches into a tower and said, "You 3 are a problem when you get organized." I laughed low. She looked at me in a way that stole the air from my chest. "You did right by him," she said, nodding toward the garage. "Not many people stand up for neighbors." "He stood up for me first," I said. We sat on the porch while Caleb made tools into dinosaurs inside. I poured 2 cups from the thermos. No sugar. Some win by stepping on others. Brad thought he was one of them. But we won by standing tall, steady, and loud only when it mattered. And sometimes the reward isn't money or applause. It's knowing you didn't bend. Sometimes winning is just knowing the porch light stays on and the man who put it there isn't leaving. The van was parked in front of the shop under a fake camera we hadn't realized was dead. No broken glass, just the side door jimmied open by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. 2 high-end key programmers, a laptop with every service log, and a box of blanks the size of a cooler. Gone. Insurance would cover some of it, but not the hours, not the speed, not the hit to momentum. Elena sat on the backroom floor, knees up, hands clenched tight, eyes shut like she was bracing for a wave that wouldn't stop. I didn't say anything at first. I brewed coffee, poured it into the old green thermos Walter gave me, set a cup by her hand. We lock locks, I said. We also get back up. She opened her eyes, lifted the cup, drank like it was oxygen. That night, we rekeyed the shop. Every cylinder, every code. Elena rerouted the emergency line to her phone, and I mounted a real camera with motion alerts. Caleb slept on a mat in the corner, mouth open, one shoe kicked off. We worked until 3 in the morning. Gritty, slow work, but it steadied us. Next day, I was pulling out of the school lot when the office called. Mr. Torres, Caleb's okay, but upset. Mother's Day planning started, and he shouted he doesn't have one. The words hit like a spike under the ribs. I said I was coming and barely hung upright. When I walked into the classroom, the air was tight. Caleb sat in a chair too small, fists balled, jaw set. He didn't cry when he saw me, just stared, daring the room to blink. I sat on a tiny blue stool. I'm Ethan, I told the class. Some families are one dad, some are 2 grandparents, sometimes it's a neighbor. If you need a special person, he has that. The teacher froze, then nodded. She erased Mother's Day and wrote Family Day. A kid in Spider-Man sneakers raised his hand. My special person is my aunt, he shouted. The room loosened. Caleb looked at me. I still get to bring you, right? Every time, buddy. That afternoon, while I was on a job, a text came from my mother. We heard about school. We're family. We want to be there. I didn't answer. Thought maybe that ended it. It didn't. Next day, they showed up outside Caleb's classroom. Mom held a bag of store cupcakes like she'd baked them herself. Dad stood behind her like he'd been dragged to court. We're family, she said, chin high like a claim of ownership. I breathed once, steady. Then act like it. No drop-ins, no backseat parenting. Call first, take the time you get, and never bring shame into his space. That's the price. She blinked. Dad opened his mouth, then shut it. Right then, the principal walked by, gave me a nod. We appreciate the grown-ups who show up for their kids. He didn't even look at them. That was enough. I didn't take the cupcakes. That night, I finished the police report, serial numbers for the devices, laptop, blanks, sent everything to Elena. I flagged a pawn shop 2 towns over that had just posted a programmer I recognized, passed it to the detective, gave him a head start he never would have had. Elena said, don't expect fast. I don't, I told her, but they'll move. An hour later, she showed up with pizza that smelled like heaven. You handled both fires today, she said. Didn't yell once. It's because I practice on stubborn deadbolts, I told her. She laughed into her sleeve. You're getting better at this. I didn't ask what this meant. I didn't need to. The city grant came in a brown envelope stamped with a seal from the 1980s. Elena tore it open at the desk, stared at the check like it might explode. We got it, she said flat, still shocked. They actually picked us. I sipped my coffee and tried not to look smug. You're welcome. She blinked. You wrote the application? Elena asked. At midnight, I said. Cartoons were on. Caleb was stuck on some rescue dog saves the farm loop. Figured I might as well do something useful while my brain turned to mush. She laughed, shook her head. You sneaky little. She let the rest hang, then slid a sheet from her drawer across the desk. Profit share proposal. Typed, signed, ready. You're not just reliable, she said. You make the ground feel solid. Step in deeper. I read it twice. My pulse thumped in my neck. I glanced at the clock, counting hours in my head. I'm a dad first, I said. If this pulls me away from him, it's a no. She nodded. I like you better for saying that. We'll work around him, not the other way. So we rearranged the schedule. I'd load shifts while Caleb was at school and handle admin work from home after bedtime. Not perfect, but it fit. Right then, Walter's limp got worse. He waved it off, blamed weather in the joints. But when he almost hit the pavement climbing out of the truck, I put my foot down. I drove him to the VA clinic, sat through check-in, waited in a room where the TV was stuck on a game show loud enough to make me want to throw something. I texted Elena to shift 2 jobs. She answered with one word, done. No lecture, no guilt, just handled. That same week, a letter came in the mail, handwritten, loops wide and careful. It was from Ashley. I'm staying. I won't ask for money. I'm sorry. That was it. Simple. Plain. No plea tagged on. I slipped it into the drawer with the visitor badge from the family center. Didn't tell anyone. Just let myself hope for her quietly. Then the school sent home a flyer about career day. Caleb pulled it from his backpack like it was treasure. You have to come, he said. You have the van and everything. I brought the van, a crate of old locks, and Caleb in a Keymaster hat 2 sizes too big. The kids couldn't care less about pin tumblers. They wanted to know if the van had a siren. "Where's the button?" one boy asked. "You think I'd survive giving this guy a siren?" I said, pointing at Caleb. He puffed up, proud. Later, my mom texted me a photo of Caleb from when he was 2, pulled from my old Facebook. Underneath, she wrote, "We miss him." I stared at it a long minute, then set the phone down and bought Caleb a snow cone from the food truck outside the school. We sat on the curb, tongues blue, hands sticky, nothing heavy between us. That night, Elena showed up with a toolbox and a tired smile. Caleb was already passed out on the couch, sprawled like a starfish. "Dinner?" I asked. She shook her head. "Had eggs standing up at the shop." We made toast instead. I scrambled leftover hot dogs with eggs and we ate standing at the counter, passing mustard like it was a real meal. After she rinsed dishes, I wiped the table. Her hand brushed mine and stayed there. "Someday," she said, eyes on the sink, "when you're ready." I didn't flinch, didn't joke, just said, "I'm getting there." She squeezed once, then let go. Next day, Walter handed Caleb a child-safe whittling kit, his look saying this comes with lessons, whether spoken or not. We sat on the edge of the yard carving sticks. Caleb listened close, like the wood itself was talking. Then we geared up for the Keymaster open house. Flyers went up, invites went out. Elena ordered a bounce house. "We're either serious or fun," she said. "Let's be both." I promised coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in, but filled the thermos anyway. Didn't matter if the crowd was big. What mattered was that what we were building could hold weight. The parking lot smelled like grilled onions and hot rubber. Bounce house vinyl baked in the sun. Smoke curled from the griddle. Ray rented us, flipping burgers with a wrench for fun. We set a table with old locks, tiny screwdrivers, and a mason jar with duct tape labeled Neighborhood Lock Fund. "Pay what you can," Walter said. "Folks shouldn't be scared behind a broken door." No speech. Just that. My parents showed up before the official start. They hovered near the fence like they weren't sure what role they were allowed to play. Mom gave Caleb a timid wave, like it might snap her wrist. Caleb waved back without slowing, then dove headfirst down the bounce house slide, legs flying in the air. Caleb popped up laughing, gave me a big thumbs up, like I'd put the whole day together just for him. Maybe I had. Walter came in slower, favoring his knee, but steady, wearing a short-sleeve button-down I didn't recognize. Pressed, crisp, white with gray stripes. As he passed, he muttered, "Don't make a speech. You'll cry, and then I'll have to fake a heart attack just to change the subject." I shot him a look. "You threatening me with an ambulance now?" "Only if you get sappy," he said, but the corner of his mouth gave him away. Elena showed up in the middle of the rush, hair tied back, blue shirt tucked into jeans, wearing the Keymaster jacket I'd had tailored for her without saying a word. She didn't comment on it either, just rolled up cables and strapped a speaker to a folding chair like she'd been running events her whole life. She stood next to me, balancing a paper plate on one arm with half a bun and a pickle slice. "You seeing this?" I asked. "I see lawsuits waiting to happen with that bounce house," she said. Then added, "But yeah, it's good." We raffled off a fireproof safe, a grocery gift card, and a dad and kid shop day that Caleb proudly announced himself. I drew the names. Walter heckled from the side, "Make sure they can actually lift a wrench, Taurus." A widow from 2 streets over won the safe and clamped onto my elbow so hard I couldn't feel my hand for a minute. That's when I grabbed the mic. Hadn't planned it. No notes. But sometimes the moment dares you to stay quiet, and you don't. "Thank you," I said, low but steady, "for letting a guy with a baby strapped to his chest fix your doors, for not minding when the van was stained with formula in year 1, for answering when we knocked." I stopped, looked at Caleb chasing another kid in circles, and at Walter, arms crossed, standing proud and still. "I had help," I said, "from a neighbor who never blinked, from a boss who valued steady over loud, and from a kid who believes I invented pancakes." I lifted the old green thermos. Its dents caught the sunlight. This thing kept me upright, and the man who gave it to me taught me to get up early and keep my mouth shut about it. I walked it over to Walter, handed it with both hands. He took it, blinked behind his sunglasses, then said, "It's yours, but I'll keep it on my porch for when you need a refill." We both pretended we weren't soft. Nobody believed us. When the noise eased, Elena stepped up and tapped the mic. "Since he won't do it, I will. Ethan's a partner now. He earned it with a calendar, a wrench, and 1,000 quiet choices. The clapping came. Not wild, not staged, just real. I stood there and let myself feel it. Later, after the bounce house sagged and the coffee went cold, Caleb climbed into my lap on the shop step, sticky arms, crumbs in his hair. "Are we a family?" he asked, eyes forward. I kissed the top of his head. "We always were." Elena sat beside me, slipped her hand into mine. "Ready?" she whispered. I nodded. "Yeah." We told him together. No big reveal, just the truth that we were building this on purpose. I didn't turn to look, but later I noticed my parents had left. No words, no note, just gone. No fireworks, no parade, just a shop that smelled like donuts and metal, a thermos with new fingerprints, and a boy asleep in my arms. That was enough. That was ours. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. And as always, thank you for watching.